So these are the notes for 10.3, 30, 60, 90 triangles. Yesterday we did 45, 45, 90 triangles. This is the other pattern that's a special type of right triangle. On the 30, 60, 90 triangles, 30 degrees and 60 degrees are going to be the other two angles instead of being 45, 45, 90. Whatever the short side is, that's kind of the key. Once you know the short side, the hypotenuse is just double that. So if this is 4, this would be 8. If this is 5, this would be 10. And then if you know the short side, the long side is going to be whatever that is times the square root of 3. You always want to know the short side, the one that's between the 90 degree angle and the 60 degree angle. On the first example, here's our 60, here's our right angle, this is our short side. So if this is 10, the hypotenuse has to be twice as much. So it's going to be 2 times 10, it's going to be 20. Over here, the second example, 3 is the short side. So the hypotenuse is going to be 2 times 3. So that means it's going to be 6. And then for the third example, this is your short side, 16. So you're going to get 16 times 2. So x is going to be 32. If you're going from the short side to the long side, remember it was multiplying by the square root of 3. So if that's 8, then that means that the long leg is going to be 8 square root of 3. If this is square root of 6, you're going to multiply this by the square root of 3. So it's going to be the square root of 6 times the square root of 3. And then remember, when you're dealing with radicals, you need to factor it out. So this would be 2 times 3. And then you can see that there's a couple of 3's both inside of a radical. Those would go to the outside. And then this lonely 2 would stay on the inside. So for radical form, that would be it. Now, if you're doing decimal form, you can put that into your calculator, or even earlier, you could have put this original one into the calculator. So, second x squared, square root of 6, times second x squared, square root of 3, you get 4.2. If I go 3 square root of 2, it's the same thing, 4.2. Next example, number 6. If this is 4 square root of 3, you're looking for the longer leg. You multiply by the square root of 3. So 4 square root of 3 times another square root of 3. You have a pair of them. They go together. They go outside with this 4. And then 4 times 3 is going to be 12 for number 6. Number 7. This one's the long leg. We want the short leg. So even though we already have one of the sides, it's not the one we really want. We're going to want to focus on getting this short leg before we ever try to find the hypotenuse. Even on this problem number 8, where the x is the hypotenuse, we're still going to solve for the short leg first, which is y. So like right here, if we're going in reverse, instead of multiplying by the square root of 3, we're going to divide by the square root of 3. So you would go 7 square root of 3 divided by the square root of 3. And just like what we were doing yesterday, these would cancel each other out, and you find out the x is just 7. Now that we have the short leg, we can multiply this by 2 to get the hypotenuse. So that means this would be 7 times 2, 14. Same process on number 8. 11 square root of 6 is the long leg. We need to go backwards and divide by the square root of 3 to find the short leg. So 11 square root of 6 divided by the square root of 3. On these, since they're not the same, square root of 6 and square root of 3 are both inside the radical. So you can divide 6 divided by 3 and it's 2. And then there wouldn't be anything left on the bottom. So that means that y is 11 square root of 2. Now that we have y, double it to find x. So if you get this and multiply by 2, all it's going to do is multiply the 11 by 2. So x is going to be 22 square root of 2. And there's the x answer. And then number 9, the hypotenuse is 42. The rule from the hypotenuse to the short leg was when it was short leg to hypotenuse, we multiplied. So going backwards, you're going to divide by 2. So you're going to get that 42 divided by 2, and you find out the x is 21. We still want to find the short side, the short leg, before we go for the long leg. Now that we have that, the long leg, it's kind of crowded over here, so I'm going to put it on the side. So here's one answer. the long leg is the short leg times the square root of 3, so it'd be 21 square root of 3. Once again, if I ask you for decimals, then you would put this in the calculator, it'll give you the answer. Number 10 says find the missing sides in terms of x. So this is more like what we did in the very beginning of the notes, the drawing that I did. So this is the short leg. That means that the long leg would be whatever the short leg is times the square root of 3. And then the short leg times 2 would be the hypotenuse.